2,337 days ago. The date was November 18th, 2016. I was just starting my freshman year of college and DJI unveiled their Inspire 2. Fast forward 6.5 years later to today, April 13th, 2023, and we finally have an update to that drone in the brand new Inspire 3 that gives us all the upgrades we could ever want in a flagship premium cinema drone from DJI. Now, I actually owned an Inspire 2. I purchased it back in July of 2018. I actually did a live unboxing on my YouTube channel, and that was one of my favorite drones to fly, sheerly because of its speed. The rate of descent as well as its maximum horizontal speed was just incredible. It allowed me to capture shots that I wasn't able to with like the Phantom 4 Pro or the Mavic Pro at the time, just because of the design of the drone, right? And the sheer power that that thing was able to produce. But fast forward to about a year ago and that drone was taken out of commission. Unfortunately, I had to get it fixed. The person that fixed it didn't do a good job. It came tumbling out of the sky and I still haven't gotten it fixed since. Now, you might be wondering why I'd leave a drone of that caliber just sitting in my garage in pieces. Why wouldn't I go and get it fixed again? And that's because of modern day drones like the Mavic 3 Cine and even the Mini 3 Pro. These small foldable drones have become so good that really this can handle what most people need in a drone. I mean, even the Mavic 3 Cine here has such better technology than what comes in the Inspire 2. It's got better obstacle avoidance. It's got better transmission system. It's got a better remote controller. It's got better flight characteristics. It's got a better application. It's just flat out better across the board. But the reason the Inspire 2 has still been holding on is for a couple of different little features. For example, dual operator support. You also have different camera options, different focal length options, being able to capture video in ProRes RAW. So there's a lot of little things that really kind of kept that drone around for the purpose of flying it on, say, a movie set or for a film set, like a big production where maybe a Mavic 3 just wouldn't cut it. So the Inspire 2 is kind of just hanging around there, but now with the release of the Inspire 3, it brings it up to what I'd call like the industry standard, right? It gives it omnidirectional obstacle avoidance. It gives it a better transmission system. It gives us all the technology that's come in these newer drones, because think about it. We haven't had an update to this drone in 6.5 years, and a lot has changed since then. Now, before we go any further, I just want to mention that I don't own the Inspire 3 yet, definitely hoping to get my hands on one. But the reason I want to mention this is because I don't want you to come to this video and get your hopes up thinking that I'm going to showcase it flying, and I'm going to demonstrate some of its different features and some of the different things that it's able to do. In fact, nobody owns this drone yet. At the time of filming this, you can only go onto DJI's website and reserve the drone. So it's one of those things where they unveiled it, but they haven't necessarily released the drone yet. I also need to preface this video by stating that this drone is not for everybody. You're going to look at that price tag, $16,500, and be like, oh yeah, I don't need that. I'm not going to buy that drone. I'll stick with my Mavic 3 or with my Mini 3. But if you can get the Mini 3 and the Mavic 3 and that gets the job done for you, then this drone wasn't built for you, right? This was built to be put on a set, on a movie set, on a film set, right? This is for big budget productions. This is for people that need the features that this drone has built in. And we're going to get in those features because there's quite a lot to cover here. And because of how much there's to talk about, I've shrunk it down into really 3 different sections. I first want to talk about the aircraft, I then want to talk about the camera, and then I want to talk about some of the features and the specs. That'll kind of help us organize this video to talk about such a massive drone release. So to start things off with the improvements made to the airframe, I think that this is one of the reasons the Inspire is such a standout drone, is because it looks awesome, right? It's great that it has awesome specs under the hood. It carries an awesome camera. It has great image quality, but I mean, really, the drone looks mean, it looks aggressive, and that definitely gives it points for style. Now, with this new Inspire 3, DJI has kind of taken it to the next level and made it look even cooler somehow. It almost has this forward stance when the drone is sitting on the ground, and then as it takes off, it lifts up and back. It really does look awesome. Now, aside from looking cool, DJI also says that this now improves the efficiency as well as the speed of the drone, both horizontally and vertically, which we'll touch on here shortly. But overall, just looking at some of the photos and videos that DJI has released, really just look at how much of a marvel of engineering the Inspire 3 is, because it looks so freaking awesome. Now, moving into some of the features that have been integrated into the airframe of the Inspire 3, the first thing I want to touch on is the new FPV camera. So this is a camera that's mounted to the front of the drone that is always looking forward, and you can find one of these FPV cameras installed in basically any DJI drone that allows dual operator support. support. So drones like the Inspire 2, the Matrice 30, and the Matrice 300, just to name a few off the top of my head. Basically, if you've got a drone where two people can fly, one person flies the drone while the other person controls the camera, that FPV camera is really important so that the person flying the drone can always see what's ahead of the drone. So this FPV camera gives you a wider field of view, better dynamic range, and overall better visibility in low light, which is definitely a warm welcome, as the Inspire 2 FPV camera I'm gonna say is close to useless. Now, continuing on with the theme of features that we've seen in other enterprise and commercial drones from DJI, we also have a dual battery system in the Inspire 3 that was available on the Inspire 2, but with this drone, we now have an upgraded version of that battery in the TB51. So this now allows us to fly for longer and gives us a higher level of redundancy. So if one battery fails, you've got a second battery that's independent of the other so that you can come down and land safely. There's also a brand new charging hub, the TB51 Intelligent Battery Charging Hub, that can hold up to 8 batteries at once, which is much better than the 4 batteries that could go on the Inspire 2's charging hub. Now, perhaps the biggest upgrade made to the Inspire 3's airframe is the omnidirectional obstacle avoidance. So we now have cameras looking in every direction around the drone that basically create a bubble and help you avoid obstacles. Now, I know that there's going to be some people in the comments that say they don't need the obstacle avoidance, they're too good for obstacle avoidance, but I'll say that if I'm flying a near $20,000 drone, I definitely want to make sure there's good sensors in place that are going to help me avoid obstacles that I might miss as I'm flying around. Now, DJI says that there are 6 fisheye cameras, 2 wide-angle cameras, and 1 time-of-flight sensor. It's kind of difficult to tell exactly where these sensors are positioned around the drone. I tried to piece together some images to see where exactly they're positioned, but we're not really going to know until we actually get the drone here and look at it for ourselves. I will say that looking at some of the images on DJI's website, they're using the new wide-angle cameras as found on the Mavic 3 line of drones. So these have a wider field of view, they're a higher resolution, they're overall a better obstacle avoidance sensor than what was found on the nearly 6.5-year-old Inspire 2. So we've now got more sensors, which makes it, I would say, easier to fly because you don't have to worry about crashing your drone. It's looking all over the drone, which is nice. I also want to give a shout out to CopterShoot. They are like an aerial media company over in Dubai. I believe they're actually featured in DJI's launch video of the Inspire 3. They have like 10 Inspire 3s, and they've been posting a lot of great photos over on their Instagram. Definitely go check them out. But that also gave me a good view at where the sensor is positioned, right on the leg, like just on the outside, to again help you avoid obstacles. It's really crazy to think that the Inspire 2, for as big and expensive of a drone as it was, only had forwards, downwards, and upwards obstacle avoidance. Nothing on the sides and nothing on the back. I guess that's why you'd want to fly that drone with 2 pilots, or I guess 2 people in command, one person flying the drone, always looking forward, while the camera operator had the camera pointed in a different direction. But yeah, I can't believe it only had 3 ways of obstacle avoidance. But now we've got omnidirectional obstacle avoidance. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it's kind of like bringing the Inspire 3 up to the industry standard, right? Like all drones, all good drones at least, have omnidirectional obstacle avoidance now. It's just kind of a standard feature. And now it's nice that the Inspire 3 has that standard feature. Now, there are 3 different modes, if you will, of shooting and capturing video with this drone. The first of which is just like the normal, what they're calling 360 pan, or the normal flight mode. So basically, this is with the motors and the arms up, fixed. This is where you're going to get the fastest speed from the drone. But also, if you wanted to tilt and pan the camera upwards, you could actually use the tilt boost mode so that you can look upwards at a maximum of 80 degrees, which really is helpful. And also, they've got their travel mode. So when you're putting this into a case, it makes the entire drone lay flat. So to kind of wrap up this section on the airframe, they kind of just made things more modern, right? They took the same design, they kept it, they made it a little bit more aggressive, they made it look a little bit more sleek. You can tell it looks just a little bit more thinner and refined than the Inspire 2. They kept a lot of the great features and again, brought some of the features up to the industry standard with like omnidirectional obstacle avoidance and things of that nature. But the last thing I want to touch on is the speed of this drone, and this is where I'm just a little bit disappointed. So the maximum ascent speed, so that's when we're flying upwards, is 8 meters per second or 17 miles per hour. The maximum descent speeds when we're diving down is 10 meters per second or 22 miles an hour. That is pretty quick. I mean, you can get this drone down to the ground very fast. But the maximum horizontal speed is 94 kilometers per hour or 58 miles per hour, which really is not that much faster than the Inspire 2. The reason I bought the Inspire 2 over, say, the Phantom 4 Pro was because of its speed. I enjoyed how agile and quick that drone was. I could keep up with boats, trains, anything that I was going and chasing after, I could keep up with, right? But I always wanted more speed. And I always thought that with an Inspire 3, they'd really crank that speed up, especially with this aggressive new design. I thought that it was going to be able to do speeds of like 60 or 70 miles an hour, but instead we have 58 miles an hour. I guess 50 and 60 are close, but regardless, I thought it'd be a lot faster. And then when I look at like new drones that come out in the future, right? Like after this, like let's talk about Mavic 4, for example, right? Would they make a Mavic 4 faster than the Inspire 3? No, they wouldn't. So this now puts our cap with the Mavic at 58 miles an hour. At the end of the day, I just want a faster flying drone, and I thought I'd get it with the Inspire 3, but unfortunately, it's just a little bit slower than I would have anticipated. Now, before we move on to the new camera design for the Inspire 3, I quickly want to touch on the controller that is going to come shipped with this drone. This is the RC Plus. It's not actually a brand new controller by any means. This was originally shipped with the M30, so I would say it's about a year old at this point, but this is still DJI's biggest and best controller. It's got a 1200 nit screen. It's got a replaceable battery as well as an internal battery, so you can hot swap this, basically giving you indefinite runtime. You've got custom buttons all over. You've got replaceable and swappable antennas. You've got full-size HDMI, USB-C, USB-A, micro SD. You've got anything that you could ever want on a controller right here, but it's big. Like, this thing is cumbersome. Personally, I love flying with my RC Pro because it's small, it's portable, easy to use, sometimes hold with one hand if I need to, but this is definitely very heavy to be using all day long. Like, if you're going to be using this on a commercial set, or if you're going to be on a film set and you're going to be flying all day long with the RC Plus, you're going to want to invest in some sort of harness so that it can balance the weight around your neck rather than having to actually hold it up with your arms, because it does get very fatiguing to fly with this controller. Nonetheless, it's a beast, it's a great controller, and I'm happy that DJI brought this over from the commercial drone side, like from their Matrice series, and are now letting us use it with the Inspire 3 because it is the biggest and best controller that they offer. Now, moving on to that brand new camera, we have the Zenmuse X9 8K Air. So this is a brand new camera system designed specifically for the Inspire 3. And I don't want to spend too much time discussing this camera right now because I want to use it. Like, I want to be able to go out and capture some footage with it and share with you my thoughts on this camera. I can quickly put up some of the specs for you here on the screen. You can take a look at everything this camera is capable of doing. It is going to be a straight up beast. We've got some brand new lenses that are able to be used with this camera. Let's see, it's a 18, 24, 35, and 50 millimeter lens designed for this camera. A nice full frame sensor. Of course, we can capture 8K video up to 80, 75 frames per second. It's up here on the screen. But there's one thing I want to mention is that this camera is not going to be compatible with the Ronin 4D. So the cool thing about this entire ecosystem is that you can use the same relative camera on the ground with the Ronin 4D and then in the air with the Inspire 3. But the issue is the camera designed for the Inspire 3 is the Air version of the camera. It is a stripped down version that's more lightweight to be fit on a drone. Now look, you're probably not strapped for cash if you're purchasing both the Ronin 4D and the Inspire 3, so buying an extra camera is not going to put you out all that much money. You're probably going to be able to make that money back on a shoot that you go and use the camera with, but it would have been nice to just have the same camera for both pieces of equipment, on the ground and in the air, but instead they're just slightly different, so you can't swap them between the two pieces of equipment. I will say that on DJI's page, they do have some sample footage if you want to go ahead and download that for yourself and play with it. I'll leave a link to it down in the description, but again, I want to get my hands on it. I want to shoot some of my own footage, and then I want to give you my thoughts on it. And like, I don't think my thoughts are gonna be bad. Like, it is an amazing camera. 8K, super high frame rate, being able to capture cinema DNG as well as Apple ProRes RAW. It is going to be an awesome experience. I mean, here in Philadelphia, I love capturing the city with my Mavic 3, but being able to do it with the Inspire 3 is going to be something that will be epic. So definitely stay tuned as I get my hands on this drone, hopefully in the coming weeks, and we'll definitely put that camera to the test. So up until this point, we've touched on the airframe improvements. We've touched on the camera improvements slightly. I kind of want to wait to talk more on that until we can actually like shoot with it, right? But I think the biggest improvements have been made in like the feature set and the specs and like the things that this drone is able to do. So for example, O3 Pro, the new transmission system, is like a multi-generational leap over what came shipped in the Inspire 2. In the Inspire 2, we used Lightbridge 2, which is the old generation of transmission system, and then it's like 4 versions removed, right? So we've had OcuSync, we have had OcuSync 2, and then we have O3, and now we have O3 Pro. So this is like a huge difference. So it doubles the range from what we had in the Inspire 2. It's around 15 kilometers. I think the biggest change is that at these closer distances, no matter what's in between you, you're gonna get a nice strong signal. I mean, flying with the Mini 3 that has O3 and flying with the Mavic 3 Cine that has O3 Plus, those transmission systems are so good. I never drop frames. I never experience any issues at close range, and that makes flying and capturing video so much easier. What I find crazy though is that with O3 Pro here in the Inspire 3, we get up to 4K live feed coming back to our controller at 30 frames per second, which I don't even know how I'd be able to react to that. Like, what is that going to be like? Being able to see a live feed in 4K as I'm flying my drone is going to look so crispy, and I cannot wait to try that out. Now, while I think the transmission system is by far the biggest upgrade here, just because it's going to make the drone easier to fly and easier to get better shots because you don't have to deal with like range issues, you don't have to deal with any breakup in the video feed, there are some other great things that have been added to this drone. For example, the dual antenna that's been added to the body of the drone. There's one in the front and in the back. Directly off of DJI's site, they say both the front and rear of Inspire 3 have a built-in stacked ceramic antenna, providing powerful anti-magnetic interference capability to further improve flight accuracy and safety. So overall, that's just going to make the signal that you get that much better, pretty much adding to how great O3 Pro already is. Now, RTK is also built into this drone, which is the first, as far as I'm concerned, with DJI's lineup in which a cinema drone has gotten RTK capabilities. Usually you see this in their commercial drones like the M300 and the M30, but this unlocks a lot of really powerful automated flight capabilities. So for example, they showed off 3D dolly, I think that's what they call it, where basically the drone is able to fly along a path and you can choose how fast and where it moves by just moving the stick forwards and backwards. They also have repeatable routes and Waypoint Pro, so utilizing RTK, it's now going to be so much more accurate. Like, they show day to night shots that look like they are right on the same exact path, which is tough to do with a normal GPS in a normal drone. They also seem to have made some pretty significant improvements to the spotlight feature. So this is where you can drag a box over a subject and then fly the drone around, and no matter where you fly the drone, it'll keep the camera trained on that subject. So if you're solo shooting, it makes it easy to chase a boat, a train, a car, a person, anybody you might be filming. It just makes it that much easier. It's one less thing you have to worry about when you're actually flying the drone, is framing that person up. Now, they're calling it Spotlight Pro, which means to me it's been upgraded over the Spotlight that you'd find in like the Mini 3 or say the Mavic 3. So it's going to be really cool to see how that fares when I'm actually testing it out, to see if it can say track a subject better. You know, I'm just scrolling down DJI's page here about the Inspire 3. I've looked through all the videos that have dropped about the Inspire 3, and there is so much to go over. Like, I don't remember the last time DJI dropped a product launch video that was 8 minutes long. There's just way too much to try to give to you in an initial reactions video. So once I finally get the drone in person, there will be some great content coming out about how it works, how all the features work, what it's good for, and maybe what it's bad for. And you know, it's funny because I used to always lug around the Inspire 2, and I was almost happy when DJI came out with a better, smaller foldable drone that I wanted to use over the Inspire 2. I was like, oh, thank God I can finally leave that drone at home. But it looks like I am back to lugging around a massive drone in the Inspire 3. Now, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this drone. I think overall, they've just made it more modern, right? Like, they've brought a lot of the modern features that we're used to in their newer drones, like the Mavic 3, and they've put it in a much larger drone that can carry a massive full frame 8K camera, which the footage I've seen looks great, and I cannot wait to use it. Again, please let me know your thoughts on the Inspire 3 down in the comment section below. It has been a long time coming, 6.5 years, but we're finally here. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.